안녕하세요, Korea 박Kimi입니다. Hi, this is Kimi Park from Korea, and today we are going to talk about my thought midway through the term at Sogang University. So today is Sunday. We are at the end of the 5th week out of 10 of the program at Sogang University. I am currently doing level 4. So I had done another video about my first impressions of Sogang University, and now I wanted to go through what I think midterm. On Friday I had the first half of the midterm exam, which are the 듣기, the listening, the 단어, the vocabulary, the 문법, grammar, the 대화, so writing a dialogue, and 읽기, the reading. So this is the main harder part, I would assume. Like, this is the one where you have the most in one time. I think I did okay, but of course I won't know for real until I get the result back, probably next week I suppose. Now on Monday, tomorrow, I have the Seoul exam. So the thing is about the Seoul exam is that it's pretty easy in the way that they tell you in advance what it's going to be. This is your Seoul book. In it, at the end of each chapter, you sort of have to do a writing, like a longer text, and 4 of them are already graded, so you have to give it back to your teacher and they correct it and they give you a grade. Out of these 4, you're gonna get 2 on the Seoul exam. And because the teacher corrected it, basically you just need to learn it by heart and be able to write it again. And you need to be careful that those texts contain at least 6 expressions or 문법 or grammar point that you studied during the whole beginning of the term, because it's kind of like one of the criteria. It's also, of course, a lot better if you use as much vocabulary that you learn as possible, because these are the kind of thing that the teacher is going to grade you on, beside the fact that you have to write in a correct manner, right? But they do say that you have to use level 4 grammar, level 4 vocabulary. It can make sense. So the Seoul is on Monday, and then the following week there is the interview. But for the interview, I was very surprised that they give you the questions in advance. So you have 8 questions, at least at level 4. You need to speak for 2 minutes about it, and I think they're gonna ask 2 to 3 questions out of those 8. So basically, because they give you that in advance, you can just prep your answers. Even though you shouldn't like just memorize it and talk like a robot in your answers, the fact that you can think of it in advance is just great, in my opinion. I'm a little bit baffled, but in the sense of like, I never had that before. At Yonsei and Sejong, where I studied before, you don't get the questions in advance. I mean, of course you can sort of guess what they're gonna ask you about, because they ask you things that, you know, you studied in class. But having the exact questions is just, I mean, I like it, right? But for me, I always think that on the day of the exam, when they ask a question, they're like, you know, tell me about this, and like because I'm a little bit stressed, I just like, I can't think of anything. My brain just goes blank, and I'm like, I have no idea what the weather is like today. I have never been on holiday before. Things I want to do, things I want to achieve, jobs I want to do, I have no idea. Yeah, so I'll tell you about that another time because it hasn't happened yet. So because we're midway through, we finished the whole of 4A. And then from now on, we're going to do 4B, so we haven't got it started on this one. As I already mentioned in my previous video about my first impression of Sogang, the grammar is not super difficult at Sogang, I found. So this was not too much of an issue. However, the sheer amount of vocabulary was my problem. So these are the vocabulary lists that you're supposed to learn, right? And it was really overwhelming to have all of this vocabulary to learn, and I have been doing my best method to learn vocabulary, which are flashcard. Paper flashcard. There is an awful lot. There is not even the last 2 chapters because I didn't even have time to do these. So this is 60 words in 2 days, that's 30 words per day, roughly, because it's a bit more than that. It's not possible to learn it in the sense that at the beginning it's going okay, but the more you add, and it's still all these words that I can't manage to remember from the previous chapters, and it's all adding up. So I'll make another video about the way I do my paper flashcards and how I study with them. It's very efficient, however, it's very time consuming. And also there are some words where I'm like, I don't really care about this, and every time I was looking at the card I was like, oh, I don't care about that word, why do I have to learn it? I don't feel like I'm ever going to use it in my real life, and it just gets me annoyed. And I'm sitting here in a cafe trying to go through all my cards, and I'm like, ugh, I was too focused on learning the vocabulary and overwhelmed by the sheer amount of it. But I've realized that you don't need to know all the vocabulary, in the sense that you don't need to know how to write it and to know from English to Korean what it is. a lot of them you just need to be able to recognize it, especially the one that are in the ilgi part, so all the one that you do in the second half of your course. You need to focus a lot more on the one used in the totki and maragi. Now you need to know to recognize them all, for sure. If you see this word, you need to know what it is, but you don't need to know how to write it all perfectly, and it's just too much, right? So now, what would I do differently for the second half? In terms of paper flashcard, I still find paper flashcard very, very efficient for me. So I'm going to keep on doing that, except that I'm only going to do a selection of the vocabulary. And for the rest, I'm going to study them using an app called Quizlet. I just got myself the premium version, Quizlet Plus, that I used to have when I was at Yonsei. So actually, what is great here is that somebody called KLEC has already done all the vocabulary list for Sogang 1 until 5. I have noticed once that there was a typo though. But anyway, mostly because, you know, in this you have the Korean word with the direct translation in English, which are not always great, to be honest, but it doesn't really matter. Anyway, somebody has already done this on there. So I would be able to practice in general the vocabulary using the app, because I go through them very quickly. I don't do the thing where you type them personally, because I need to write by hand. If I type, I don't it doesn't get in my mind just as easily. But for these, as long as I can recognize what it is, it's good. And also Quizlet has this voice function, so it reads out loud the flashcard, both in English and in Korean. It's pretty practical in that sense that at least you get the hearing in. The second thing I would do to learn the vocabulary more is using the audio track. So you can download the audio track that you are hearing in class on the Sogang website, and then at the end of the books you have all the transcripts. The vocab that we have to learn come from this, right? It comes from the dialogues and the text that we have to read, and some of the other text around it. But roughly, most of the vocabulary is going to be in here. So I want to highlight in the text and regularly practice with the text. So maybe doing some shadowing or reading out loud, because reading out loud is actually something I'm really bad at as well, with the dialogues and listening to the audio, as well as the actual text themselves. And because I would highlight the words every time I would be reading it, I would, you know, notice this word more and be like, do I understand this word, what it means in context? So yeah, I think this is the way going forward. And then of course I've been doing the compulsory homework that they gave us, the text that we have to write. But to be honest, I haven't been doing the homework that they tell us to do but don't check, right? So I'm talking of course about the workbook, and there's loads of exercise in it, and I told myself, oh yeah, I will go through it all just before the exam. There are 8 chapters, so I'm just going to do 1 per afternoon as a countdown until the exam day. However, the teachers actually give us extra exercises to prepare for the exam, so you don't necessarily need to do those. I've also figured out that going through an entire chapter takes me about 2 hours, and then I feel lazy to do the rest. There's also extra reading. I haven't done the readings in them because we had these extra work, and because, you know, I had other plans, I ended up doing only 3 out of the 8 chapters. This is something that I would want to change. Actually, doing the workbook, the exercise in the workbook, because it helps you practice on the grammar, because these are usually grammar related exercises, or there's a few about vocabulary, but they also kind of use the vocabulary from the chapter, so it forces you to relearn the words just by practicing them instead of just really trying to core memorize them. And then the fourth thing that I'm gonna do moving forward is checking what I'm doing every day, because I do study every single afternoon after class, but what I do and the quality of what I do varies greatly. So I just bought in Daiso, of course, where else, this little study planner. I'm obsessed with buying planners, but this one I should actually use it. I mean, it's fairly straightforward, but I want to write down every day what I've been doing, what I've been focusing in, and see if it's any better, see if I'm less overwhelmed than in the first part of the semester. There's also a presentation I need to do that I still haven't started on. Yeah, there's work. So besides the study part, how do I actually feel about Sogang so far? Pretty good. I feel stressed out, but it's really much in my nature. I feel the way they're teaching is really efficient. There's a lot of speaking going on, there's a lot of repetition going on, and it really helps. I really think that if you are actually going to all of the classes, you will already, maybe not enough to pass the exam, but you definitely would know a lot of it, a lot of the content, because unlike in some other courses where you go through it once and then it's finished, it's over, you're already moving on, you don't have time. Here, the pace feels accurate. And I find it super efficient that we have a whole day which is booksup, revision of the previous 2 chapters before to move on to the next 2 chapters. I really like this. I like that in class it's quite activity based, so you know, when we did a thing about advertising, we had to create an advert. In chapter 6 we studied a Korean folk tales and we had to write down an alternative ending and act it up, which was also quite fun. The teachers are really good. I adore my Suki teacher. She is such a joy. She is so enthusiastic and funny, and I really like her. She's constantly telling us to not work too hard, to not worry too much. Yeah, she's just a bubble of joy. Bundle of joy? Bubble of joy? Bundle of joy. I don't know. She's happy and she makes me happy. And I hope that if you guys are going to Sogang, you're gonna have as good as a teacher as her. She's fantastic. I also like the other teacher, right? The teachers are good, they are very friendly, they're very nice. I know it's not the case of all of the teachers, even at Sogang, which is a good institution. How much you click with the teacher is gonna depend on each person. So now I have to stop recording and go practice my Sugi for the exam tomorrow. Wish me luck. I hope that this video was useful to you. If so, please let me know by giving me a thumbs up. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.